Let me tell you about the concept of freedom while raising children under the Montessori pedagogy, but also translated in home environment. There is this misunderstanding, misperception that when we give too much freedom to children, something bad will happen. They won't learn how to behave well, there will be very poor behavior at school, they won't learn manners, and basically they will be spoiled. However, this cannot be further from the truth. In Montessori environment, freedom is a crucial aspect of supporting children in their healthy development. According to Maria Montessori, this is the single factor that determines whether a child would be allowed to become this spontaneous and creative individual. However, she's the one who says, to let the child do as he likes when he has not yet developed any powers of control is to betray the idea of freedom. I'm often asked by parents what do we usually mean by giving freedom to children, and they ask me, are we not afraid that we're giving them far too much and they're not going to learn to behave in a certain way? And what I want to say here, and to make sure that we all understand, is that freedom is essential. We need to give it to the children, but giving freedom doesn't mean it's not within limits. It doesn't mean that there aren't rules that determine how the child would exercise this freedom. And usually in a school environment, the way we do that is through creating a very favorable environment, something which we can do as well at home, and using the teacher as the guide to make sure that this favorable environment works with the human tendencies of the child, with their desire to be independent and to be free, but also that there are certain rules that the child needs to learn, that there are certain rules that they need to follow. And the rules are basically not that many, they're free, but they encompass everything that you can think of in terms of behavior, manners, and care for the world. So the first one is respect for yourself, that's respect for the child, which nurture independence. The second is respect for the environment, which at school means the activities, the shelves, the chairs, how we care about the environment outside, but that of course extends outside of the school environment to the universe and how do we care of our planet. And the last one is respect for others. So yes, it's great, I respect myself, but I cannot do that to the account of others. And within these three rules, when they're imposed and when they're learned and they're showed their role model to the children have an extremely great amount of freedom to do as they like throughout the day. So the freedom can fall in few different categories. So the first one is freedom to choose. And I want to invite you to really go for your day, and especially for those of you who have children up until 10, 11 years of age, because I think it's very different when they're teenagers, but to see how much freedom do you give to your child to choose during the day. Freedom of choice is very important for early years because it supports brain development. That's how they build new brain circuits, and that's how they learn to resolve problems, they learn how to go through struggles, they learn to be more persistent. And we need to allow them the freedom to choose, even though this choice may seem to us to not be the greatest for them at this stage. So in the classroom under Montessori, they're free to choose what do they want to work with, they're free to choose how much time they want to spend with an activity, they're free to choose how many times they want to repeat it. And we always cultivate this freedom for choice because it gives the child much more than we may think it is. Under traditional education, unfortunately, the children are not allowed to choose freely based on their interest or based on their own inner need at the moment. And this is one of the things that we need to account for as parents, because then in the outside school hours, we need to make sure we give them enough choices. So the first is freedom of choice. I invite you, go through the day, how much freedom of choice you give to your child, whether it's what they wear, whether it's about the extracurriculum activities, whether it's about how they want to spend the day, and most importantly, what are the activities they want to engage at home. The second is the freedom of movement. Again, that's a big thing. In Montessori environment, it's easy because children are always allowed to move as they want, as long as they don't disturb others, of course. So they may choose to be standing or sitting, they may choose to just stretch a bit and stand up and choose another activity. However, under the traditional educational system, there are not. So if you have a child up until the age of 11, it's very probable that at school they're told to sit and not to stand, they're told how to engage, and they're not really allowed to move as freely as they may like at this particular moment. So think about your home environment. If you live in a flat, do you allow them the freedom to move? I quite often see when I go somewhere that parents basically shout to their children and ask them, stop, or you make too much noise, you're running far too much. But that's what children actually need to do. So make sure you provide freedom for their movement. Another is freedom of communication. Who do they want to communicate with? We don't, in a school environment, push them to interact with someone if they don't choose to do so in the moment. So we don't have this specific time when you have to work with this partner just now because I'm teaming you up in the early years. Of course, that's changed later on. But at home, how much freedom we give them in communication, there is this notion that they need to talk to the people who we choose them to talk to because it shows good manners. But what about their own free choice to communicate? Maybe they don't want to talk to their brother now, maybe they don't want to talk to you now. So do they have the freedom to choose who and how to engage in social interactions? And there are many other freedoms. Of course, we can think of freedom of time and how time doesn't exist for very little children and how we push them to exist for them, but also freedom of speech, the things that they're allowed to say or not allowed to say, and that would help us also evaluate what sorts of parents we are at home. Because again, there is this notion that there is the autocratic parenting type and then there is this permissive type. And either you're autocratic, which means you're almost all the time telling your children how they should act and what to do, and you make choices for themselves, or you're very permissive. And by permissive, you're losing the balance because you let them do whatever they want. But actually what children want, it's really a scaffolding around them. So when you give them the rules and you let them run free, you are providing this safety net. Somebody somewhere, I read a blog long time ago, made this comparison with if you're driving a car on a very tall bridge and there is no railing around you, you'll be very careful when you cross the bridge. But if there is railing around the bridge, then you're calm because it's much easier for you to focus on the road and you're not thinking about the danger falling through. So it's very similar with children. We have to give them this scaffolding, we have to give them these rules and provide them safety net with those so that they can run freely within these limits. And in that way, we actually support them much more than we think we do. There is not only autocratic and permissive, there is of course something which the child development psychologists called authoritarian, which to me translates very much into respectful parenting. And this is what we aim nowadays with the new generation, with the children who are coming very differently than the way we've been raised up. It's to just be respectful. And freedom always goes with respect. You cannot give a freedom to someone unless you respect them. And respect always comes with trust. You have to respect, you have to give them freedom, but you have to trust that they will know what to do. And that's something which I feel that a lot of parents still struggle with children. So this is my invitation for you to just think about the freedom and how you allow freedom for your child in their day-to-day activity, in their day-to-day life, but also on a much bigger level, how much freedom you teach them that they have. Not teach them, but guide them and show them that they have. Okay, that's it from me. If you like this video, please give me a thumb up. I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. And please, please give me a comment and tell me what does freedom mean for you in your environment as a parent, grandparent, or educator. Thank you, see you. Finally done?
Not really happy because that's running. Ranky.
Show me this thing that is getting out.